Buonasera a tutti. Allora, prima di cominciare l'evento dal titolo Giornalismo, Presidio di Democrazia, volevo avvisarmi che l'intervento dei nostri giornalisti si terrà in lingua inglese, quindi vi supporterò un attimo con le indicazioni su come utilizzare la nostra applicazione di supporto alla comprensione simultanea, che è Interprefy. Potete usare questo QR code, inquadratelo pure ora con il cellulare, per scaricare l'applicazione, in modo tale che potrete comunque ascoltare e seguire l'intervento in lingua italiana, visto che, come dicevo, parleremo in inglese. Vi lascio un minutino per scannerizzare il QR code, grazie. Lei?
Lei non ha la traduzione in inglese. Io ho quello che tu dici in italiano, ma il mio italiano è abbastanza buono.
Appena non compare... Ok, chiedo un attimo alla ragazza. Ok. Mi dicono che la Cerstin non ha la traduzione al computer. Guarda,
Metti il timer qui e metti l'inglese a lei. C'è la traduzione. No, vabbè, ok.
ma per voi per regolarvi dite con l'orario?
Sì, vabbè, guarda,
Perché sennò vediamo noi qualche segnale.
Va bene. Ok, meraviglioso, grazie. Ok, meraviglioso, grazie.
Per i nuovi arrivati in sala stavo dicendo che potete scannerizzare il QR code per scaricare l'applicazione, per seguire l'intervento che sarà in lingua inglese e quindi per avere i sottotitoli o l'audio in italiano. A breve cominciamo. Ok, una volta scaricata l'applicazione potrete inserire il codice che adesso vi dirò, tutto minuscolo e senza spazi. Quindi il codice è AIRROOM01, quindi AIROOM01. A di non mi viene in mente, Arezzo, I di Imola, R di Roma, O di Otranto, M di Milano, 01. Ok, per poter procedere con l'applicazione se qualcuno necessita della cosa. E premere il tasto Connect. Sì, il codice è AIROOM01. Ok. Poi potete scegliere come seguire la traduzione, quindi se attivando l'audio, e in questo caso vi chiediamo di utilizzare le cuffiette, o leggendo i sottotitoli, quindi cliccate il tasto con CC. E se avete bisogno di ulteriori comunque spiegazioni trovate tutto al sito www.link, o comunque c'è scritto qui forse, no non è vero, www.linkfestival.it. Detto ciò, buon proseguimento.
Vediamo ancora un secondo. Questo è italiano generato da un essere umano. Funziona. Parlo piano, vediamo, capisce se... Allora, buon pomeriggio. Cominciamo in italiano ma poi passeremo in inglese perché è meglio se ci parliamo in una lingua che comprendiamo tutti e due. Io quando parlerò inglese muoverò le mani, di modo che voi possiate capire dalle mani che cosa sto dicendo. Faccio una forma di sottotitolo naturale. Allora, è davvero un piacere avere con noi Willkommen in Trieste Cerstin Gammelin. Cerstin è una giornalista tedesca, è nata a Freiburg in Sassonia, è cresciuta nella parte della Germania che qualcuno di voi ricorderà si chiamava Germania Est, Nella sua vita avrebbe voluto studiare le lingue, ma le fu soltanto concesso di studiare ingegneria. Così in realtà lei è un ingegnere meccanico. Non sembra, perché non ha proprio, come dire, l'aspetto dell'ingegnere meccanico, ma è un ingegnere meccanico. E nello stesso anno ha cominciato a lavorare come giornalista, cominciando la sua carriera in diversi giornali. Ha lavorato a Die Zeit, ha lavorato a Der Spiegel, ha lavorato al Financial Times Deutschland e poi nel 2008 è andata alla Süddeutsche Zeitung, che è uno dei principali giornali tedeschi, ed era corrispondente da Bruxelles. Poi sempre per la Süddeutsche Zeitung è andata a Berlino, dove aveva un incarico editoriale importante, e poi mi ha raccontato lei, all'inizio del gennaio del 2022 ha ricevuto un'email dall'ufficio del presidente federale Herr Steinmeier che le chiedeva di andare a parlare con lui, e allora le è stato offerto la posizione di spokeswoman, cioè di portavoce del presidente, e lei ha ritenuto che fosse una buona occasione per vedere come funziona la politica da dentro, quindi ha trionfato la curiosità. Kerstin ha scritto diversi libri, un paio sull'attività di lobby in Germania e in Europa, e nel 2021 ha pubblicato un volume in cui ha analizzato l'influenza della Germania a Est, cioè la terra dalle quali lei ha messo le sue prime radici, sulla politica tedesca, che sarà l'ultima domanda che io gli farò oggi. Per cominciare però si voleva affrontare il problema della democrazia e del giornalismo. E l'ultima parola che dirò in italiano è questa. There is a song from a British band called Killing Joke that says, "I'm sorry, democracy is changing." That was a song written 30 years ago. But indeed, democracy was changing, and still democracy is changing. You see, you have in the US an American president that says that he's not sure about his will of respecting the Constitution. You see several leaders in the European Union, especially in the central eastern part of the European Union, which are in a way breaching the most important principles that connect and defend our fundamental rights. Let's say Hungary has to say one, and more things are happening. So the respect of our most important rights are at stake now. So I would like to ask Kerstin, do you think that democracy is at stake now, and why? And if it is so, what is journalism risking right now? Thank you for coming anyway.
Thank you so much, Marco. Okay.
It's all right.
First of all, please give me a second to say thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here, and in this beautiful room. I cannot remember that I have been in such a beautiful room in a session like this one. It's really a big honor, and to be honest, I'm also impressed by this translation here, because as Marco said, I'm working in the presidential palace, and for us it's always a big challenge to get the translation. And so I see here you have it just in time, so I will ask your technicians what they use at the end.
This is the NEM group, which is a very important publishing group with very good journalists. Okay. We can do miracles.
So, okay, then if you can do miracles, we can discuss about that, perhaps.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but coming to your question, it's a very, very big question. I would like to do it step by step. I mean, first, I would like to start with something positive. Democracy has been changing all the time. At least we have a presidential election or parliamentarian election in Germany, almost every 4 years, sometimes earlier. In Italy, also from time to time, I would say. But then what changed after that was the color of the majorities. So the color came from the left wing to the middle and then to the right wing, and it changed all the time, at least also in Germany, but also in Italy. So the majorities were different from time to time. But but what we see now is not only that we have these elections, what we see now is that the structures, which are the basic for everything, for our democracy, look suddenly not so strong anymore. And why that? And I think if we look back, everything started really for everybody could see it on January 20, 2017, when we had the inauguration of Trump the first time in Washington. And Trump said in Washington, look at all these people. I have so many people like never before here just for my inauguration. And then we were sitting on the television screen and thinking, okay, I don't think it's so many. And we were laughing. We were laughing on January the 20th in 2017. But this was, from my point of view, the start of a systematically lying that at the end ended up that we have Trump again. And 8 years ago, we thought, okay, it cannot be that there were so many people because Hillary Clinton got in Washington 90% of the votes, so it's clear there were not so many. But now we have so many lies every day that we ask ourselves now, what can we believe? And this is the big change, I think. From laughing about a lie and thinking, no, that's a lie, so forget it, and now having so many lies that everybody's asking himself or herself, so what can I believe still? And then is the question, can we still believe that democracy, like we know or how we know it, will survive?
And so that's why we need independent journalism, and the role of journalism can be crucial to tell the audiences that these are lies and these are not. So is this the way out?
Yeah, I mean, of course, classical journalism should be fact-based, and you report facts and then you give your opinion on that. But the question is, what I would also like to put in the room, do we still live in a fact-based time, or do we live in a post-factual time now? And what changed also in the last 8 years is the digital revolution. So we are in the midst of a digital revolution, and this is also changing the way how democracy and politics are working. I mean, normally journalists are reporting what politics are doing, or let's put it different, they are watching politicians and writing down and controlling, basically they are controlling politicians, journalists. But then if they have to fulfill the rule and the role, basically you have to make sure that the readers are reading what journalists are writing or saying or in the TV show bringing. And here we see also a change that's also dedicated to the digital revolution. You find more and more content, also political content, in the internet without paying. So why should I pay if I can find all the political headlines without paying? Why should I pay if I open my Insta or Facebook or whatever, or TikTok, and I watch the little movies there, and then from time to time my timeline has some political news? Why shall I pay for different news? And this is a big challenge, I think, what TV stations and newspapers are facing. But I don't want to put journalism and politicians in one boat. These are really two pair of shoes. And I can say that now since I changed my role. But they are facing the same challenge, because on the one hand, we have users, and every user has this cell phone. And this cell phone opens the way in the world for everybody. And they find opinions, they find things what they think themselves, and they can put and post their opinions into the world. And it is working in the principle. I want to make a post that gets as much attention as possible. So people want to get attention, and they want that many, many people look at their posts. And on the other hand, the big techs have algorithm, and they can control this algorithm, and they can make sure that the posts they like are always in the ranking in the first places. So these are the two poles, I would say. The users, and every user is an individual editor-in-chief, and you have the big techs that are controlling, and also they want to have as much attention as possible, and they want to earn as much money possible. And in between them are the journalists that are writing stories to bring the whole picture and not only one opinion. And you have politicians that are elected to find compromises. And you have this contradiction now between finding compromises and getting as much attention as possible. And that's where we are.
And you said something which is important, that people want to have information for free. But I can tell you one thing, it's not because it's me, but because it's me speaking right now. There is not such a thing as free information. If somebody is giving you something for free, there is a hidden price you are paying. He's taking your data, is monitoring your habits. So if something is free, just beware. And because luckily there's never been so much information in our life. I mean, information is available everywhere, but choose who's giving you the information. So if it is the federal president, then you know it's the federal president. If it is NEM, then you know it's NEM. But if it is somebody just popping out of TikTok, just beware. There is not such a thing as a free meal in this world anymore, unless it's your father or mother or sister giving it to you. But having said that, do you think that all this new situation brings classic journalism under pressure? Because you have to follow the clicks. I mean, you have to do something which is enjoyed by wide audiences. So is this a pressure that in a way harms the quality of journalism potentially?
No, I mean, actually, this is a question you should ask the editors, which want to earn some money. And
you've been an editor too. I mean, and you had to earn.
No, I mean, okay. Yeah, sure, we see that journalism is under pressure, and I tried to explain it a bit already. I know it from myself, from my former work as an editorialist for Süddeutsche Zeitung. Of course, there's always the need to reduce people in the offices and other things, but we always tried to make sure that, for instance, Süddeutsche Zeitung kept their huge net of foreign correspondents in the world, and it is still there. But you see, on the other hand, that people that are reading a printed newspaper are getting less and less. So the abonnements are okay, but many people say, okay, so what? I don't mind. So they have my datas already. So, and this is the point. Why should they pay? This is the big question. And I think we have, or journalists have to convince people that they give the broader picture, the bigger picture. They give news they cannot get somewhere else for free. And I also think we need a certain understanding that journalists have to get paid well. Otherwise, they cannot do what they have to do. And this is very important. And I can also I mean, I cannot comment on German politics now and all these things, but I can tell you, for instance, when we travel, when the president is traveling, we always take also journalists, or we invite journalists. They have to pay for the trip for their own, but we invite them to come with the president's plane. And there are less and less journalists that can do that, and that has two reasons. First of all, they need the people at home in their offices to report about what is happening in Germany, and there was a lot happening in the last months. So they cannot travel with the president because there are not so many people there anymore. In offices, years ago there were perhaps 20 people, and now it's 10. So that means less and less journalists have to report about daily news. And they are working day and night, but they have to stop at a certain point. And so what do? They use artificial intelligence.
That's the point.
They report, or they write very fast. They cannot call 10 people to make a story. They can only call 2 people to make a story. And they cannot report about things that are not on a daily basis interesting, but in a long-term basis. For instance, when the president is traveling, the president in Germany is as similar to your president, to Mattarella here. He is not in the operational business and not in operational politics, but in a representative position. So what the president is doing is normally more or less to show when he is traveling the good relationship with Germany to other countries. Of course, this is very important, but it is not so important that the newspapers or the TV stations are saying, okay, we have people free to travel with him. And this is just one thing I can tell you.
You said, truly you said that there are not many journalists left in the offices, in the desks, because the newspapers are using less and less people to do their job, and which is a problem in terms of quality, which is what it says. But then you said the magic word, is it? Artificial intelligence. So publishers think that artificial intelligence can solve most of the problems. They can write stories, they can publish stories very quickly. But the artificial intelligence is artificial. So it's not a man, it's not a woman, it's not a mind thinking. They just do troll fishing in the web in order to reorganize their information, and they haven't still got for the moment the attitude to analyze what is happening, which is correct. So Kerstin, from your experience as a journalist and as a spokeswoman now, should we, how far we can go with artificial intelligence as a positive tool, and how big is the threat that artificial intelligence can open if compared to the needs of quality journalism and quality printing?
I mean, I would say there's one thing that really makes the difference. Artificial intelligence can write everything from information that are in the computer. Yeah. But if you are, I'm not in a newspaper now, but from what I hear also from my colleagues, what the difference makes is that the journalists in an office are sitting together every day and going through the news, talking to people, and then they talk about what they see, what they hear, and then they try to find out what's happening, what's the story to tell to the readers, to the people. And this is something what artificial intelligence cannot do. Thinking what is the story today for the readers. And that's the reason why I think how journalists can get readers and also get paid for the content is that they really think about what the story is. That they do a job what artificial intelligence cannot do.
Artificial intelligence would tend to do the newspapers all in the same way. Because if you ask the artificial intelligence, which is the big news of the day, they will troll through the internet and then will tell you the average response, while newspapers should do a little bit of a cherry picking and pick up the different things to try to get off the beaten track.
Yeah, but this is when I make, if I may, I would like to make the link to traveling with politicians.
Come on.
If you travel with politicians, you get more information that you can find in the internet. Yeah, and if you are traveling, if you are talking to people, if you go somewhere and you look what's happening, then you have more information than the internet has. And then you have to use this information in a way that people like to read it, that people like to see it. And this is the big challenge, I think.
And if you see The Economist, which is, a weekly magazine that earns money every year, they haven't cut the list of their foreign correspondents because they need human beings, they need living people to talk to other living people and find news which are not already in the net. So again, quality will save journalism in a way, using artificial intelligence, but always adding that little something which is typical of human minds. Is that? Do you agree?
I agree, and I would say the internet is not the enemy. I mean, we have to handle the internet. We are in the midst of this digital revolution, and we have to find ways how to handle it, how to manage it, and how to change the business model of journalism.
How far can we push transparency of relations between journalists and politicians? You were telling me last night that in Berlin there is a special organization which organizes the meeting between the journalists and the member of the government, which is something we do not have in Italy. Would you share it with us now?
Yeah. I mean, even if I'm not now in journalism, but working for the president, which, by the way, is really interesting, I often think about journalism because I work with journalists now on the other side. And what I really appreciate, and I want to tell you, is that basically in Germany there is, on a way, there is politicians and journalists are on the same level, at least in Berlin, where political journalism happens. And this is because 75 years ago, right after the end of the war, journalists in Bonn did find an own organization. It's called the Federal Journalist Organization or Federal Press Organization, Bundespressekonferenz. Perhaps they can translate it. Bundespressekonferenz? It's an organization. Yeah,
Bundespressekonferenz, la conferenza federale giornalistica.
Exactly.
Capisco pure io.
Yeah. And the point is of this Bundespressekonferenz that journalists are inviting the government. So normally when we were in Brussels also together, the European Commission is inviting journalists to a press conference every day. It's called midday briefing, and then journalists are going to, let's say, the government, so the European government. In Germany, it's completely different. In Germany, it is that this federal organization of journalists has an own house and a big room, and in this room every second day, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, the journalists are inviting the government for presenting news and of course for asking questions. And this is this is very important because you have a kind of a level playing field that is equal.
And so is it on the record or off the record?
It is on the record. Everything is on the record. And it is you know, in other countries, journalists really have to ask, can I get this and can I get that? And here they are coming, the government is coming. I mean, it doesn't mean that they are telling everything, no? That's, yeah, but people can confirm that. But at least politicians and journalists are talking on the same level together. And this is, I think, very important. And this is also why political journalism actually in Berlin works, I would say works well. Can be better, could be better, everything can be better, but...
And are you happy about this system? Because I'm trying to think the same system transplanted into Italy. And,
why not?
We haven't got enough time, I'll tell you. But I mean, in Italy it would be very, very complicated to have... because they wouldn't come, they would have to... what is complicated in Italy is that inside a government there isn't such a thing as one idea about Italian politics of the government. So if you're asking the Treasury something, then the other minister from the other party will probably do not agree. So it would be complicated to have a single position of the government. And then anyway, it would be such a chaos, there would be troubles everywhere.
I cannot imagine.
No, you cannot imagine. I mean, you're very kind today, I guess. Thank you very much.
But for instance, if I may add, what is really interesting, and a few of you may know that, every year we have a summer press conference. So every year in summertime, the Chancellor has to come to the journalists.
We have it at New Year's Eve, more or less. In January, the President of the Council come and answers to the journalists. And let me ask you one thing while you're saying this. If you are at the summer conference of the German press, which is the rate of questions which are pre-arranged with the government?
Nothing, no question.
Not even one?
Not even one.
Not even one,
no.
Okay. We got the impression in the last press conference of the President, of the Italian President of the Council, that more than 50% of the questions were arranged.
In Italy?
Yes. This is the impression, because you see the way she responds. She's got quotes from internet already. There was one question asked to Giorgia Meloni, I can't remember what it was, but she answered quoting a phrase from some famous guy from political things. And it says, wow, she's good. But then if you go on Google and Google the problem, that's the first quote that comes out of Google, which means that she knew the question, and the question was prepared by somebody who looked on Google and found the first phrase and sent it to the Prime Minister. And it's a matter of discipline sometimes. So
I mean, this press conference is established, and I would say in all my years as a journalist, I have never seen a pre-arranged question. Never ever. I mean, it is at this summer press conference that they ask questions. How are you doing? Or when Merkel was still there, she was asked, how long will you stay? So things like that, or questions like that. And basically nobody asked normally a question, how long will you stay? But in this summer press conference, yes. But it was all a surprise to the Chancellor, and they didn't know. Perhaps they did expect what journalists can ask. Yeah, they are not stupid, but...
And they probably rehearse. I mean, they probably study the possible questions which you can say. So, which is the role? I mean, we said that before the internet, the audience is changing. And articles can be more difficult to read. Now there is a Eurostat, which is the European statistical body, said that only 45% averagely of the Europeans have a more than basic knowledge of the use of the internet. So that means that more or less half of the Europeans, in average, but then it's 75% in Romania, where they are casting a vote tomorrow, and it's 40% in Italy, people are not very, very smart and using this one. So the audience is changing together with democracy, and maybe this is why democracy is changing. So how do you think journalism should try to react to this? Shall we follow them and make things easier, or shall we try to do quality stuff that can help the audience to be more aware and more practically connected to the new medias?
I think you cannot teach people. You should not teach people as a journalist, but you should convince people that the stories you write are interesting, and it is worth to get up from the sofa and go and read a newspaper instead of just sitting on the sofa watching movies and ordering per telephone food for that. I think this is a bit, it's a bit provocative, I know, but I think education is the key everywhere, and journalism is just not, if the education of young people is not in a quality that people are interested or are curious, so you can do nothing as a journalist. So I think first of all, you have to make sure that our kids are getting educated in a way that they understand what the parents are talking about when they are journalists.
Mm-hmm. So we got a few minutes left, so I got a couple of questions more. And as I promised you, you said that you told me yesterday that in 2001 you published a book about the influence of East Germany onto German politics. So I know you got to be careful about what you say about politics, but we have seen that recently East Germany has been the cradle of new political movements, which are in a way affecting Germany. So if you want to share some of your thoughts about this, what is happening, trying to make us understand what is happening in East Germany, and if this is a question mark for the future of Germany.
I think what we see in Germany is that this East and West will stay longer than many people expected, and that's also the reason why I wrote a book about it. It is still the case in Germany that most of the position, 95% I would say, are seated with people that have a Western socialization, meaning they are not coming from the East and they don't have the experience. And this was also one of the reasons I wrote this book. And many people now say that the AfD, this right-wing party...
AfD is Alternative für Deutschland, is the new party which is so ultra-right, and when they think of the 30s, they do not think of the years which are coming in 5 years, but they think of the 30s 100 years ago, more or less.
Yeah, and I speak here as an author of my book, yes. And if you look at it careful, you can see that it is not an East German problem, but it is a challenge for whole Germany. The party was founded in the West, and the party leaders are coming from the West, and the reason why they found a lot of voters in the East is just the circumstances that East and West are not equal, and you have still structural problems in the East. But if you look now at our result in the election, 20% is from whole Germany.
And as an author of your book, would you say that it is necessary to talk to these people, to have a dialogue, or to let them out? Of just keep them out?
I cannot give political advices in general. Only I would say it's always better, as I said also for journalists, it's always better to try to convince people that I have the better solution than the others.
And for the last 4 minutes, I have two personal questions, if I may. First of all, as a former journalist, how do you feel to speak on behalf of the president? I mean,
yeah,
it's
basically it's a bit funny because I have the wrong job description.
Yeah.
Let me explain why. I found out only later when I already agreed to do the job. Our president, as I said, doesn't have not really political power. He is not in the operational business. He is a representative of Germany, of the state, so the highest ranking member of the state. The only instrument the president has is the word. He can give speeches, he can talk to people, so he's saying something, he's talking. So, but if the only instrument the president has, the word is, why does he need a spokesperson? He's talking himself. So this is,
yes, but
know,
maybe
yeah, really it is funny, but actually you need a spokesperson for the government to explain what the government is doing or not doing, or for all ministers to explain what the ministers are doing
but maybe
or not doing. But our president
maybe
is
asks
talking
for
himself.
advice. I mean, you might be an advisor as well. I mean,
yeah.
he might ask Cerstin,
Yeah,
what am I supposed to
but
say to Marco?
Advising is something different than talking. That's the reason why I say basically the job description is wrong. The title is wrong.
Yeah.
But so I found out only afterwards.
So I have a Mrs. Merkel question for you. So and imagine that you are, I mean, one day your engagement with the federal president will be over. So do you have plans for the future? I mean, as we say in Italian, what you want to do when you grow up again?
I have some ideas in my head I'm thinking about.
Yeah, she's the spokesman of the president.
No. I talk now.
It's the president speaking, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ms. Merkel was recently in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, she likes Naples very much,
Yeah.
and her husband is sometimes in Torino too. So it seems that you all,
Torino?
yeah, and it seems that your Italians are you're very much attracted from Italy. So that was most of it. I would like to thank Cerstin Gammelin for being with us today and for your patience to just listen to us in English. I hope we gave you something good. Do you want to say farewell and say something?
May I ask you whether the translation did work? Yes? Great. Okay, thank you.
So, it was fine. I mean, if you want to say hello, I mean, thank you very much for coming and hope you enjoyed it. Cerstin.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much. And yes.
Dankeschön. Good.